session for our Tea Talk with DT. Daphne has initiated this talk as part of her DTM project, and I'm honored to be here to witness and also to host this meeting. Without further ado, let's pass the control to our organizing chair, Daphne Tan. Daphne, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Hui Chin. Yes, this is part of my project for DTM, DTM project, in fact. Now, for this, why do I have this? It is not only for my project. That is the extra bonus that I'm getting. Why I'm organizing, or why the idea come into my mind in the very first place is because I've been attending talks, sharing, workshop, etc. by each individual champions, or the second place, third place, or the division, whichever club level, this area level, district level, or even the world championship of public speaking. One thing I noticed, each time we have only one VIP, that is the champion for the particular level. So I was thinking, I listen here, I go here, attending here, go around, left and right, and I listen to each speaker. Sometimes I was a bit blurry because of the timing of the sharing. And sometimes I find that some of the speaker was sharing something, and it seems that I don't really fit into the mold of what the speaker or the champion was doing. And then when I go to another, this similar sharing, I find that it seems that I am more fitted to this mold. So in the end, I'm a bit confused. So I was thinking, why not I bring different champions together and let them share and let me understand, let me be enlightened to see their different style. In doing our pathway, do you remember that there is one project called Understanding Your Communication Style, and there is also another one called Understanding Your Leadership Style. Now, today, we have two speakers, the two panelists with us, who are the district champion for their respective district, which is District 80 and District 102. So let's us take this opportunity, this very opportunity, which I have never come across before, of listening to two current district champions at the same time. So with me here today is from District 80, we have District 80 International Speech Champion Adeline. Adeline is the champion not only for 2023-2024 for the District 80, but had won previously. Later, we will hear from herself on how many times she has won. What I do notice is that in 2022, Adeline was one of the finalists in WCPS, that is 2022. And on the other hand, today with us is from District 102, the champion, not only the first time champion, I think, for 2023-2024, but I believe that she had won previously. Are you familiar with how many times that Safura had won in District 102? If yes, type in the chat box. Let's have some interactive session. And remember, if you have any question, remember to preface it with a Q and then type out your question. Later, during the Q&A session, your question may be picked and be presented to the panelists. Now, to save our time, let's go into directly into the panel discussion or panel workshop. Safura, may I check? Safura, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Good. And Adeline, hi.
Hi, Daphne, I'm here.
Loud and clear. Since you are the second person that I pick, I shall continue asking you the first question from me today. Well, the easiest, yes, most daunting question when we go for an interview, that is, introduce yourself to me. I will give you 3 to 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, I'll do it in.
3 to
I'll try and
5.
do it in 1. 5 minutes
Yeah.
is a whole speech. First of all, thank you, Daphne, so much for putting this together. I really wish that this was something that was available to me at the start of my contest journey. So I'm very happy because I know there's some members from my clubs here in today's call who are thinking of taking part in the contest. So this is something that's going to be invaluable for them as well as anyone else who's starting on your contest journey to be able to hear from different people. So thank you so much, Daphne, for putting this together. So the way I would describe myself, I am right now a mother, a mentor, a motivator, a mental health entrepreneur. And the thing that ties it all together for me is I think of myself as a motivator on the journey of life. So some days it's about motivating my 2 daughters. I think as any parent knows, that's a huge, huge part of motivation. Some days it's about motivating our clients and the people who work with us. And some days it's about motivating myself. And that's where Toastmasters comes in a lot because I really find that the stories that we tell ourselves is what gives us the motivation. And so when I change my stories, the days when I don't feel the motivation, I change those stories and the motivation comes back. And this is, to me, is part of what Toastmasters teaches us. So thank you so much, Daphne, for allowing me to introduce myself.
All right. Thank you. Now let's move on to Safura, 3 to 5 minutes as well.
Hi, hello. I'm, as you know, I'm Safura Atan. I am a coach, trainer, speaker, and facilitator focusing on entrepreneurship and innovation. I'm like Adeline, a mother of 2. My daughter is 25 and my son is 21. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Thank you, Daphne, for the opportunity to be here, to be sharing. And yes, like Adeline, I wish I had this opportunity to be listening to other champions when I started contesting. So I hope I can add value to those who are here today. Back to you, Daphne.
Wow, the introduction is so brief. I would like to learn more about who Safura is because I only know your name and I only know your face. That's all. And at least I know one more thing about Adeline, that she is the finalist in WCPS. All right, doesn't matter because I believe most of you have already learned about the background of each of the panelists in their other workshop previously. So to save time, let's get into the key points that we are going to share, get the learning from the panelists, because we are here to learn about contests, not about how old is Safura's children, 25-year-old, where is the child staying, all those kind of information. That one is PNC. If you want to know, let you discuss with her privately. But now let's move on to the very first topic that I want to ask, or I want to know about the contest. All right, both of you, Safura and Adeline, you are a winner for the international speech recently. So can you share with us the journey from club, area, and to district? The moment that you were announced as the winner or the first place winner again, that feeling, that kind of feeling, and the journey itself, the experience. Since I mentioned your name later, then may I have Adeline to start it off?
Thank you, Daphne. So let me give you a little bit of background of my contest journey. So this is actually my second time competing in the international speech contest. First time was 2 years ago in 2022. was about a year after I joined Toastmasters. So it was the first time I was qualified to compete after I completed the level 2 requirement at the time. And in that, the first time I was competing, the very first contest that I took part in, which was at TMCS, the Toastmasters Club of Singapore. So if you're not familiar, the Toastmasters Club of Singapore, it is the third largest club in the world right now, about 150 members. So a very, very large club, a home of one champion in the past, one WCPS world champion of public speaking in the past, which was Manoj, as well as many people who have won at area level, district level, and division level. So a lot of champions in the club. So that year, there were 5 people who took part in the club contest. And time competing, and I came in not first, not second, not third. I came in 4th. So did not even place. And I was disappointed, right? Because when you go into a contest, you always think, wow, this is the most amazing speech. This is the speech that's going to wow everyone, wow the audience, change everyone's life. And not to come in very well. It was like, okay, that's a bit of a hard knock. But this is when my mentor said, why are you taking part in this contest? It's your first contest. To use it as learning. It's about learning. It's not about the trophy. It's not about championship. And these are all the things that you did wrong. And I did so many things wrong. One of the things which I made as a newbie, because it was my first ever contest, and because I had joined after the contest season the previous year, I actually hadn't gone through many contests. I hadn't even watched many contests. I had just watched the recordings on YouTube, but I hadn't been in many of the contests. So I didn't understand a lot about what a contest was and how that was different from pathways. And the most fundamental mistake I made in that very first speech was that it was probably a pretty good pathways speech, right? So I had many of the skills of pathways, the vocal variety, the storytelling was funny, the animation, the body language was great, but there wasn't a message. And that's one key thing that differentiates a pathways speech from a contest speech. And I didn't know that. But when you look at the weighting of a contest speech, 50% is devoted to what they call purpose, or really the message. There must be a purpose behind your speech. And my speech was very, very light on that. So that was great. That was a great learning for me. And in fact, it was the guy who won the first place in that club contest who told me that. He said, it was a great speech, except you had no purpose. So already you were never going to score well. So once I learned that actually helped me, and I was very lucky. I'm a member in 2 clubs. The second club had the contest months later. And so that break of 2 months gave me a chance to work on the areas I needed to work on. And then I was able to win the second club contest, which was Cane Hill Club. And I represented Cane Hill all the way through the level until the finals in 2022. So that was my first contest journey. And what happened was I was so exhausted. I'll share a little bit later about that first contest journey, because I did not have the second speech. So that was quite a traumatic experience. So after that year, I had to take a year off. I was so exhausted. There was nothing left in me to take part in the contest last year. And so this year, again, when the contest season came around, I was like, okay, do you want to do it? I had enough time to rest, I had enough time to think and prepare myself mentally. And so coming into this year's contest, for me, the goal was not so much winning. The goal was very much, okay, let's pick up the learning. What I learned from the first contest season was by taking part in that contest, especially the last 6 weeks, preparing for the semifinals. In that 6 weeks, I really felt like I learned 6 years of stuff. So if I hadn't gone for that contest, if I haven't had the experience, what I would normally take 6 years to learn, I managed to learn in 6 weeks. So I knew the value of the contest was in the value of the accelerated learning. It's a reason to learn, right? Otherwise, you just go to clubs and you do your pathway speech. You don't have to do it again. You don't have to work on the areas you're not strong in. But a contest forces me to do that. So I knew coming into this contest season, I needed to have very clear learning goals. And one of my learning goals was to learn to do a speech in front of a live audience. Because 2 years ago, I did my contest purely on Zoom. So I never had the experience of doing a contest in front of a live audience. So a very big part of the learning for me this year was that I want to get comfortable in front of a live audience. I want to know how to engage a live audience. It's very, very different from Zoom. I want to know how to craft a speech that works in a live audience. Because again, very, very different from Zoom. One of my mentors said, with Zoom, a Zoom speech is a bit like watching a TikTok video or watching a YouTube video, right? It's one way, it's more crafted. Whereas a live speech is a two-way conversation. You can ask questions, you get immediate feedback. You can tell a joke, you get immediate feedback. So very, very different skills. One is playing tennis, one is playing squash. Both have balls and rackets, but not quite the same game in order to do well. So my goal for this year coming into it was, okay, that's one thing I really want to learn and really to get the experience of that. So that was my goal for this year's contest journey. And through the various levels, I was able to push, I think, the learning. Each level of the contest is a different level, because each level is really a higher level of the game. After you win the club, you're going to go against the other club winners. After you win the area, you're going to go against the other division levels and winners, and so on. So every level you have to push yourself. So even the level of audience engagement, which was my learning goal for this year, I had to push it up at every level. And that's how it described the contest journey for this year. So hopefully that's it. That answers your question, Daphne. And if you have any questions, anyone, please feel free to put it in the chat.
Wow, Adeline, that's a full speech itself. I'm impressed. Is there something that is impromptu, or is it prepared in advance? So much in advance, because I feel like it's a contest, either contest or a official sharing from you. And by the way, I'm quite surprised that you mentioned that Kenya was at the time, the first time you take the contest, right? The first club you did not go through, then Kenya was the second club, and all the way you went until the final of WCPS. I thought I watched you in one of the sessions in the contest. Oops. I knew immediately you are a winning material, a winner material, that you can actually make it far and high. And I was, wow, you made it to the finalist in WCPS. Yes, you did it. All right, thank you for sharing with us such a detail, and I'm inspired. Despite it's just sharing via Zoom and just answering my question, I heard the normal evaluation, what evaluator request or so looking for in an evaluation, that is the pitch, all the vocal variety is there. So well done, Adeline. I'm impressed, and I should learn from you. Now, may I have Safura to share with us what about yours? Challenges from club, area to district, and being a repeated winner.
Okay, thank you, Daphne, for the question. And I'm awestruck with Adeline. You know, immediately 2022 went directly to the World Championship. I wasn't that lucky. I actually started my contesting journey 2016, the year I joined Toastmasters, and I lost area immediately. I did well in club, and I every year since then was pretty much like you're playing a game. So one year I will win area, then I'll lose division. Then the next year I'll win division, and then I'll lose district. So it's been one step at a time for me. And finally, I managed to win district. I first managed to get third place, and then I got final into the champion. I believe the first time was 2021, 2020, during the pandemic. So yes, it was via Zoom. So I know, Adeline, I had the opportunity to contest physically before the pandemic, but my first district win was on Zoom. And what happened was that immediately the next year, trying to retain the crown, I lost because suddenly you had to do it physically. So it was like a challenge to, as mentioned, challenge to be more aware of the audience compared to when you're doing to Zoom, you're basically talking to the camera. So it's more scripted in a more controlled environment. So to answer the question, how many times I've won districts? 3 times, including this year. And well, another year to go before I can get to finals, I guess. So how has it been? It has been arduous. So I do understand what Adeline is talking about, that it does take a lot out of you, especially I still remember the first time losing area. I basically went behind the door and cried. Because each speech is like a baby, and you always feel that you've done your best, and you do not get that recognition you wish you had. But now that I've contested so many times, it is a learning journey. It is about learning how your message is crafted towards the audience, whether they understand what the message that you're putting across, and the challenge of trying to find a universal yet unique message. Because when we do speeches, there's so many speeches done before that people would say, it sounds like that speech before, or it sounds like this speech before. So that's, I think, the challenge when you're contesting, trying to come up with your unique voice, at the same time making it universal. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we face now, especially with the prevalence of social media and technology, where now you can actually watch all and everybody's speeches and contests and things like that. So I think that's the challenge that we face when we're contesting. So yeah, to answer the question, I've been contesting since 2016. So far, never miss a year so far. I don't know whether I'm gonna take a break after this, but we'll see. Maybe going to the States for the convention will refresh me. Okay, back to you, Daphne.
All right. So those of you from District 102 here, be prepared, learn from Safura. So give her a challenge. So boost up her quality, or make her even more eager to be a winner, because she has been contesting for many years. And well, to make her go higher up one level, you need to post some challenges to her. Safura, is that okay? All right, now let's go back to, both of you already shared with us the contest journey since you joined Toastmaster. Now let's get back. Long time ago, since you were primary school, or even in K1 or nursery, after nursery, when you get to speak, when was that the first time you actually took up the challenge to do a storytelling, or just a speak, or pick up something like the MC in a long time ago in your younger years? And since both of you already started, shared with us when you started contesting Toastmaster, let's get back to the early childhood year, or the teen year that you actually began, and how it felt and compared to Toastmasters contest. May I have Safura?
All right. Thank you again, Daphne. So for me, I actually love to entertain people when I was younger. So one of the things I used to do, sort of my dad encouraged me, was that whenever he listens to music, then I'll do a dance for him, something like that. And I love to talk because I was the third in the family at that time. I was the youngest at that time. So I've got an older sister and an older brother. So to grab attention is by yapping. So you have to like grab attention of the parents to give attention to me. I love to talk. I love to tell tales about my brother and sister, what they did, what they shouldn't do, and things like that. But it's pretty much private. In actual fact, I struggle speaking in public in front of unknown audience. I tend to like ramble and not get to the point, or I stammer. And in actual fact, just to share with you, when I was in university, I was invited to represent one of the colleges to be a English debater. And it was, I wish the stage would open up and swallow me whole at that time. I struggled, but because I was the first speaker, I had the opportunity to rebut the opponents. And that's where my emotion kicked in. I got so angry with the opponents that I wasn't looking at the audience at all. I was telling off the opponents that I got best speaker. Even though my first part, when I was presenting the case, I was stammering and was talking to myself. So when I started working, the thing is, I realized that I'm not the sort of person who really gets to the message immediately. So I knew I had to work on that. That's number one. And second, the ability to speak on stage in front of an unknown audience without feeling that terrible nervousness of like, look, you know, your voice will go a pitch higher, your hands would shake and things like that. I had all of that. I had all that, you know, when I was starting off, even when I started off contesting the first time, I had all that, all the jitters, all the voice going to the wrong level. You don't want it to go high pitch, but it goes high pitch. So that's my journey. So I can't say like, oh, I was the child MC, I sang in front. No, I didn't do that. I didn't have that opportunity. So yeah, that's my story. Back to you, Daphne.
All right, thank you for sharing with us. Yes, starting young, from home, and then you move on to your college years, university years, and as the debater. Wow, that's interesting. Now let's listen from Adeline.
So I was the child MC and I was the child singer. So no, I've actually always been involved in drama. So I love acting on stage. I also love singing, but I'm not the triple threat because I cannot dance. But one of my daughters, my older daughter, she's actually a dancer. Her goal is she wants to be a K-pop dancer. So all the dancing skills that bypassed me all landed on her. So I've always loved being on stage, and I always loved acting. So emotions come naturally, facial expressions come a little naturally. To me, the part that has always been more challenging for me was impromptu speaking. So as you know, when you're actress or when you're on stage, you can learn the lines, but impromptu speaking has always been more challenging. And the part that brought it home for me was probably when I was studying in the US. So I went to the US to study, and in the US, there's a lot of talking. People would share with you their whole life story, even 5 minutes after you meet them. My husband's American, and I see how he goes out and he comes back and he says, oh, I had all these wonderful conversations on the MRT in Singapore. And I said, what do you mean? You don't have conversations on the MRT. You just get on, you look at your phone and you keep quiet, right? You don't talk to anyone, maybe your friend, but that's it. But he would just talk to people and he would learn about their life stories. And he even got us once an invitation to someone's house that he just met. In fact, it wasn't even that person's house. It was the friend of that person's house. So we didn't even know this person, and we showed up and we said, we're friends of Joe. So yeah, so going to the US and learning like how people speak and use communication very differently to form relationships, and how people, it's such a normal thing. I think for us from an Asian culture, we're better at prepared, right? Where we learn to write our speeches, we memorize our speeches, we deliver our speeches. But to be impromptu, to be put on the spot, meeting someone you don't know for the first time, that was a very different skill. So when I joined Toastmasters, it was during the pandemic, towards the end of the pandemic. We couldn't leave home, we couldn't meet new people. So I was like, oh, it's a great way to actually meet new people online. And my goal when I joined Toastmasters was not so much to get over the nerves, which I know a lot of people join Toastmasters because they're like, I'm so scared of public speaking. For me, because of the stage experience, I didn't have that. But what I wanted to do was to have more impact. So I had realized in my working career that I would say something in a meeting. I would make a point in a meeting, right? And people would nod their heads and seem like they understand. And then 5 minutes later, someone would make the exact same point that I just made. And everyone would then say, thank you, John, for that wonderful point. And they will keep referring to it as John's point. And I'm like, I made the same point first 5 minutes before, but clearly it wasn't landing. So for me, it was not so much nerves. It was more about impact, about having a sharper message and delivering that message so that it stuck with people, because all this was feedback to me that there was no impact. I was moving my mouth a lot, but a lot of it wasn't landing or having impact. So for me, the goal in Toastmasters was to sharpen my message. Very similar to what Safura said. How do you sharpen and craft your message? So that was my goal when I joined in the pandemic years. Back to you, Daphne.
The challenge is crafting a message. Yes, before crafting a message, all the details on crafting a message, go forward to the speech itself, the contest speech. How do you actually come about thinking about what is it that you want to share in the speech, and that is choosing your speech and then building the message, of course, at the end of the day. Now, when you are choosing a topic for your speech, where do you actually normally obtain the idea? Is it through pathway, working on the pathway project, or is it because you are from your life experience? Yeah. And do you actually stick from one topic all the way till the district level? This one, I think Adeline already shared earlier on. And share with us, how do you actually craft your speech? Is it you get the idea, then you work on the content, and then you deliver, and then only finalize the title of the speech? Oh, do you think of one title and then work on it all the way to a complete speech? Now, how do you go about deciding the content? Yes, may I have Adrienne?
Yes. So let me share with you the way I did it at the beginning, which I learned is not the right way to do it because I didn't win the contest. So the first way I did it was how I would do my pathway speeches, which would be, hey, let me think of a great story. And it's normally a very fun story, right? Something that happened to me yesterday or something that was very meaningful in my life when I was traveling and all that. So I would start with the story and then try and find a message out of it. For me, the turning point was when I changed that process to actually start with the message. What's the message that I want to have in this speech? And so in the first contest cycle 2 years ago, that was to me the biggest change. The speech that I did the first time I ever wrote it that way, which was to look for a message, to think of the message first, and then think of the supporting stories. That was a speech that I actually managed to take all the way through to the finals. It was a speech about overcoming your fear, about being bigger than your fear. And that's the first time I did it. And today, that's how I start my speeches. I actually start with thinking about the message and then finding the supporting story or stories to go with it. When it comes to coming up with the message, so I actually spend quite a lot of time. A lot of the time is actually thinking time. So to come up with a speech, especially a contest speech, there's probably 2-3 months of thinking about it, thinking about the message. Before the first word for me, I start writing the first word, there's a lot of time that already happens in thinking how it's all going to come together. So for me, the message goes through 3 filters. The first is me. The first filter is me. What's happening in my life at the moment? What's important to me? What are things that I am struggling with or that I recently struggled with and feel like I learned something out of? So the first thing is me, right? Understanding what's relevant to me at a time. And what's really interesting to me, because the contest journey is quite long. For us, it starts in November and it goes all the way through to May for the district level. And if it's a semifinals, it goes through all the way to August. So it's quite a long journey. And sometimes the things that were important to me at the start of that journey, which is November, October, and maybe September, the 3 months before the contest, by the time it comes around to the division contest or the district contest, sometimes like, you know what, that's not really top of my mind. And that's where I really have to bring back the passion and bring back the motivation for that message. So for me this year, a big part of what was important to me is gratitude. A large part of learning to be grateful again, learning to incorporate gratitude for everything that I have in my life. And I wanted this year's speech to be about gratitude. So the first filter for me, a message, is me, right? What's happening in my life? What's important to me? The second is us, right? So that message has to be something that's universal. It cannot be something that's so specific to me. It must be something that I think some people call it a human value or a universal value. So in that sense, gratitude is a human value. Everyone understands gratitude regardless of where you come from, your age, your gender, your background. So looking for something that is universal, that applies to all of us because we are human. So first is me, then it's us, right? Something that we share. And then the last part is them. So is this a message that is relevant for enough of the audience? Because there may be parts of the audience that may be turned off by that message for whatever reason. So making sure that this message is is enough for an audience, and especially when it goes past the district level, because district is normally national, right? Which means that it's people from a similar background, similar cultural values, similar stories. But once it goes past that, a lot of differences that can come up. So, I know one of the questions that you had thought about before was around, can you take the same speech all the way through? And it really depends on whether that speech has enough to be applicable to a wider audience. I'll give you an example. So 2 years ago, when I got to the semifinals, and I was really scrambling for a second speech because I didn't have them. And in the space of 3 weeks, I had to come up with about 15 speeches, all of which did not work. And one of the speeches that did not work was a story about appreciating the smaller things in life. And the story that I had was a story about rescuing a little dog that was about to die. And, every day I just encourage the dog to live a little longer by giving him a bowl of ice cream. So the goal was, if you live one more day, you get one bowl of ice cream. And this dog that was supposed to die after everyone thought he was going to die after 2 weeks. He was very, very ill. He was blind. In fact, the reason why how he came into my life was his owner wanted to kill him because he was so old. So the owner threw him down the stairs, and the foster agency rescued him and called me and said, "Would you look after him? Don't worry, it's only 2 weeks. He's really, really ill." So I said, "No problem." So he came to my life, and I gave him a bowl of, and he was so scared of humans. So the first day I put a little bowl of ice cream, and he came out from the table and he ate that. And I said, "Okay, fine. Every day you're alive, I'll give you one more bowl of ice cream. Okay?" And he ended up living for 2 years because he could get a bowl of ice cream. So the story I had was around little things. You don't think it means a lot, but little things actually give people hope. And that story message would not resonate because obviously the reference of a dog has a very different cultural reference outside of certain cultures. And not only that, even the idea of little things give hope is not a very universal message. So to me, those are the three filters: me, what's happening in my life; us, to make sure that it's something that's universal, that we all share as humans; and then third, is it going to be appropriate for audiences, especially audiences that are not from the same background. Okay, back to you, Daphne.
Wow. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Sometimes it's quite challenging. I was wondering, is it something that is so locally identifiable? For example, now it's durian season up in Penang. By the way, I'm from Penang. So is it applicable to use durian in the speech, or if I'm selling durian, I use my story? Is it applicable for global audience? Yeah, that's something that I will be asking further and get you answer, sharing with me later on. Now let's move on to Safura. Now, Safura,
Well,
how
perhaps
do you obtain your
perhaps this
idea?
is I'm the wrong person to ask because I haven't reached semifinals.
Don't worry. Today we are only talking about until district. What
Yeah, okay.
share is
So,
bonus.
so I guess because I've been doing it the wrong way. I always start with an experience. Then I craft my message. So I don't start with a message because I tend to be rebellious, I guess. I know a lot of people tell me you start with a message, you craft your story around the message, but I feel, me personally, it doesn't work with me because I like to start with the story first. And what is the learning I can get from the story or the story? So that's how I do it. And I do have the same filters like Adeline. I would actually ask people, when I present the speech, I would ask, what was the message? Did you get it? Or what is your feedback, on the whatever it is, I always appreciate feedback on that. But mine is pretty much, I will sit back and I will think about what's an interesting experience that I had in my life that I think people would get something out of it. So that's usually how I craft my stories, because I feel I have a very colorful life. So I there's so many things I think there's funny and there's things, insights that I use. And most of my stories are at least 60% true. So it is not made up. It's not a made up story or anything like that. So So I think that's the challenge for me to actually, you know, what is it that you're gonna take out from the story to sharpen the message? Because I believe that all stories has a message. It's just that how do you sort of like take the knife and cut it to the shape so that it'll be sharp enough, the message will be sharp enough. I think that's really important. To have the end in mind, I think is the most important thing, but you don't want it to be obvious. You know, you don't want it to be too obvious to the point that people, she's going to talk about this, she's going to talk about that. You want to have sort of like a twist or something like, I never expected that to happen or never expected that perspective. So sort of give that, like, people are waiting something like that twist, you know, that so that's how I craft mine. And definitely typically I start off with something on club level, and a lot of people tell me that every time they hear my speeches, it's like a different speech. It is, because every time I get a feedback, I would actually look at it and I would like dissect it, I break it up again, I put it together. So it comes slightly different or totally different, same message, sort of same skeleton of a story, but it could be delivered slightly differently, could have a slight different twist. So it is typically the same speech from club to district, but every year is a different story. So far, I haven't recycled any of my speeches yet. Not really. I mean, there's elements, but it's typically something new. So that's how I craft mine. It does, like I mentioned, but it does require a lot of thought process. And just like she said, you know, we've got our lives. So this speech is like 5 to 7 minutes, but then you've got to like spend time, you know. For me, I've got to like literally have that day not doing nothing at all, but just looking at it. Okay, looking at it and focusing on it. Otherwise, it doesn't get done. So that's me. I really need to work on it. Otherwise, it would not be the speech that I would want to deliver. So that's for me. Back to you, Daphne.
Wow, Safura has a different approach in preparing her speech. Well, ladies and gentlemen, do you notice different person have different approach? Which is the best? It depends. Try it out and find the one that suit you most, because we do not want to participate in contest, then we getting headache over this speech and get stressed, right? So find the approach that is most relevant or most suitable for yourself. No one approach is the best, but there are many approaches. It depends which one suit you best. All right. Adeline did mention that she had the opportunity to go all the way to World Championship, and in between she had 15 disposed speeches because of the content that is not suitable. That tells us that be practical and be universal. That's the message that I got from Adeline. Now, let's move on. On the delivery and the humor element, plot twist, etc. How is it, or how many of it is actually advisable in a speech? And do you actually start off your speech with a bang, or do you have the surprise somewhere in the middle, or that end it with high note is the best? Is it, which is the most practical or most widely acceptable or most popular, do you think, Adeline? Because you have already reached that stage. Adeline?
Oh, for me, okay, good. Sure. So, so where I am on my journey is I'm still finding my own style. So I believe that all of the above can work, all, including what Sakura and I discussed, right? There's a different style that works for each person. Some people start with the story, some start with message, some start with the general idea, all kinds of different approaches. Some people have a very casual conversational style. Some people have a very put together, very slick and professional style. Some people like to speak from a certain voice. So a lot of things, I think it's all about finding our voice. And in fact, one of the things I've learned is that the people who get to a certain level, it really didn't come overnight. Like someone actually said, you know, it took 1,000 speeches for me to give that one winning speech. And it's not because he reiterated the speech 1,000 times, but it was through that finding his voice, finding the message that resonates with him, the way he tells the story, all those things have to come together. So I don't think that's the right, for me, I would start with what really resonates with me, what is the style that is uniquely me, and then it comes into, okay, if it's a more humorous style, and I'm not a very humorous person, so for me, I know I'm not that's not going to be more of that. For me, it's more I try and go towards inspirational, something that's more touching and emotional. So it's a different style. So I don't think there's a way to benchmark and say, okay, you need 7 laughs or you need 14 laughs. It's always good to warm up the audience if it's a live audience, but I don't think there's a number or special number to hit from that standpoint. For me, one of the things I do like is to open with a bang. Because especially in a contest, there might be 8 other speakers, 9 other speakers, right? In our club contest, I think last year there were 13 or 15 speakers. So it was 2 hours of just the contestants part of it. So it's very important to open with a bang, grab the audience. I like to think about what's the most climatic part. If there's a big story, and most of the speeches have one single big story, I like to drop people right in the middle of that story, right from the start, because it grabs people. Now, how you do that in many different ways. You can do that with an action. You can do that with a bold statement. You can do that with a question. You can do that with an activity that you ask the audience. So many ways of doing it, but I always believe you have to grab people within the first 20 seconds. How you do it is really up to you, up to your style. And then as you take people along on the journey, how you deliver that is really your style as a speaker, what you're comfortable with, what people resonate, what people expect from you. And yes, you do want to throw in a few surprises, because if people know what they're going to hear for the next 7 minutes, they're not going to listen very well. And especially for the WCPS, you always want to leave people on a high note. You want to leave them higher emotionally than where you got them. But how you bring them on the journey, it's a roller coaster, right? You want to bring them up, down, twists, turns, all the things that you can throw, all the skills that we learn in Pathways, you want to put it all together and throw at the audience. So that would be how I put it all together. Back to you, Daphne.
Right, what about you, Safura?
Yeah, I totally agree with Adeline on opening with a bang. You definitely want to catch their attention up front, that they want to hear you, they want to listen to you. You want to grab it up front. But at the same time, there must be sort of like a high note, especially a climax, sort of like in the middle where the learning, the message, when you start talking about the message, that transition must be smooth and meaningful. So it can't be like disjointed. I think a lot of us, and even me, the challenge is transitioning from the story to the message, from I to you. I think that is where I struggle a bit. And people do, the feedback I do get, I don't see the transition, or the transition is lost to me. So I think that's something that need to work on. But what I find that a lot, especially World Championships, because I've been watching the finals for a few years already, they do like humor. People love humor. People love things that engage them. So having humor, it doesn't have to be a lot. sort of lightens the mood, because people, 5 to 7 minutes listening, and especially when you're contesting, you've got, like mentioned by Adeline, you could have like 13 people, and that's pretty much nearly an hour of speeches, and people don't want to get bogged down, be very, sort of dragged down. So you've got to have that roller coaster, like mentioned by Adeline. At the same time, you want to end up very positive, because people, if you end with like feeling, oh, so terrible, it's not a good place to be. So that's something to remember when we do our speeches, is that we want people to feel, they've got something, a takeaway, something, a call to actions and things like that. I think that's really important. I just want to also go back to talking about local, having the local flavor. In actual fact, there are a couple of finalists or champions who actually managed to do that very well. The guy who did Nandini, he really put a context of his country, his culture, and the other guy who went to the Indian wedding. So actually it's possible for us, to talk about durian. But the thing is, how do we craft it to make the message clear to people who do not know durian? I think that's the skill. That's the skill that the speaker needs to have to be able to pull that off. But it's possible. Don't be surprised, that can be done. Okay, so back to you, Daphne.
Thanks for the encouragement. I think after this, I should be thinking how to put Sangking and Ochi onto the world stage. All right, let's move on to the next stage. We have already talked about the idea, how to get the idea for the speech and then work on the content. Now, let's go on the rehearsal. Now, the speech is already the rehearsal. As Adeline mentioned earlier on, over the time, because the contest is started in November for some district, and then the final district level is in May or April, end of April, and when it comes to the WCPS, it will be in August. So over the time, that period of time, things may change. The content or the message that you want to deliver may change. I mean, the message is there, but yourself may change because you outgrow yourself. Human, we grow, right? We turn wiser. So it seems that the previous idea may be obsolete by the time that we are going to deliver it in August. So how to keep ourselves motivated and still stick to the same idea and to have the same emotion at the time that we originally crafted the speech? How many rehearsal, and after many rehearsal, sometimes we change. How to keep ourselves at the peak? May I have from Safura?
Well, if you ask me how many times I've rehearsed before a speech, I think it's countless. I don't know about Adeline, but it's like countless times rehearsing, and of course my victims are usually my family members. It starts off with my husband and my children having to listen, and now they're very good at giving feedback and evaluation, even though they're not active Toastmaster members. And definitely I've got this group of people from my clubs that will actually help me along with my speech. So I do like quite quickly after my club contest, where it's still fresh, I go around getting feedback and getting inputs from them. Well, in 0102, we're not that far behind when we talk about, we don't have that much time difference before we start club to district. So usually our contest starts in January, around December, January. So, and it ends around April, May, like that. So April latest. So we've got this tight time between club to district. So we don't have that staleness, I would say staleness, because in 102, we also have humorous and table topics and stuff like that, other contests that happens at the end of the year. So for me, that's how I do it. And pretty much, once in a while, looking at it while you're showering, reciting certain parts that you have challenges with, because I know which part I'm gonna get stuck. and things like that. So that's me. That's how I do it. So I don't know, Adeline, yours. How do you do it?
Wah, rasa lah Sabah Adrian pula. Sorry about the Malay. Yeah, now she is Safura is throwing the challenge to Adrian to share her story.
Yes, thanks, Safura. So for me, it's about iterations. It's about how many iterations it takes. Because as Safura mentioned, the speech will evolve, right? You'll find things that work, things that don't work. And if you think of the start of a speech, the first iteration of it, honestly, it's like vomit on a page. You're just vomiting your ideas, vomiting everything. It's probably 1,000 words, sometimes even more than 1,000 words long, right? And the issue is going to be, how do I find the pearl inside that huge chunk of vomit? And for me, it's like, okay, let's just get it. I've been thinking about it for a while. Let's just get it out on paper. It's not going to be perfect the first time. Let's just put it out there. All the ideas, all the different metaphors, all the different things that you just want to have out there. Then from there, you do your rough first cut, right? You do your rough first cut. And the goal in that is to see, does the message resonate? So the first thing is, if the message, and it's a very raw form message at that time, right? So it's something very, very broad. It's not going to be as beautiful as the speeches that you hear on the WCPS stage. I mean, those speeches have gone through probably 100 iterations. In fact, one guy said he had rehearsed 500 times with that speech. Some people have done the same idea of the speech for 2 years. So those are very, very rehearsed speech. So the first idea is iteration. What you want to do, what I want to do is I want to just test and see whether the message resonates, whether the story has any big holes in it. So the story is not going to be perfect also, because as you take it through later on, you'll refine the story. But you just want to see, is this story that starts to alienate people? I gave you the example of the dog story, right? If I took that to certain audiences, immediately people will say no. There were people who also told me, okay, you don't use this kind of metaphor. It's a very hard metaphor. It's a metaphor that people don't like. So already I know that story, that metaphor doesn't work. So I can kill those ideas off very early. So in the early stages of testing a message, testing whether the basic story idea works, that one I find you can test with your club. You can test with different club levels. You can test with your coach. Also can test with online clubs, because all you're doing is testing the message. You're not necessarily looking for audience engagement yet. You're just testing, does my message hold? Do you have any issues with it? Any big things about story and message? So that first level is okay. And then as you go through, is what Safura mentioned, you get feedback from people, and I'll share a little bit about who I try and get feedback from, and then you integrate that feedback. And what you'll find is that you start from a big lump of everything, right? Everything is in there, and you refine. The message becomes cleaner, the stories become cleaner. For me, half the details of the stories have to be cleaned up because there's a lot of unnecessary details from the first version. So a lot of cleaning up, a lot of making it tighter and tighter and tighter, and you go through each of those iterations. My first round 2 years ago, I did not have a second speech. I had only one speech, which was about be bigger than your fear. And then when I got to the semifinals, people were like, oh, you need to have a second speech. I was like, great, I have 6 weeks to come up with a second speech. So that speech, I had only 1 month to work on it, but it went through about 30 iterations. So that was quite a lot. Most people will say, target about 5 to 7 iterations, but each iteration is a major iteration. So it's not about just changing one word here or there. It can be changing the structure of the speech, changing how you open the speech. So pretty fairly major iterations. At the beginning, the iterations are obviously bigger because you have so much. It's not clean. It's just a huge mess, right? Like I said, it's a lot of vomiting out the ideas. Later on, it becomes word choices. I mean, the one thing I learned on my journey when I got a coach to work with me, a professional coach to work with, because I had no idea how to do anything. Even the choice of the word "and." He would say, "Do you need the word and here?" I'll be like, it's "and." Do we really have to spend so much time arguing about it? Every single word, do you need to have this? Do you need to have 3 examples? Can you just have 1 example? Do you need to, at the later stage, everything goes through a microscope. Every word choice, every gesture, every facial expression, every pause, how long you pause. That's the discipline of later on. But early on, just get the ideas out there, test the message, test the story, any red flags, no red flags, keep refining. If you're going to district, you have a goal to go to this, or even from club, right? I would say try and go to 2 or 3 iterations before you get to your club contest. So make sure you give yourself in time to practice and get feedback at least 2 or 3 times in front of different clubs, different audiences. Can be outside Toastmasters also. You can practice at your workplace. If you have a chance to speak at your workplace, you can practice if you're Rotary Club, if you're in other kinds of clubs. If you're a teacher, you can practice in front of your students. At home, you can practice. So try and get 2 or 3 rounds in before the first contest. And after that, you try and get different rounds of feedback from people. And my goal in terms of getting feedback is I always try and get feedback from people who have gone to that level. So if I'm competing at the area level, I want to make sure I'm getting feedback from people who have won at area level. If I'm going to the district level, I want to get feedback from people who have won at the district level. From my district, or can be also districts that are similar to mine, right? Because then they can take me to that next level. And so those are people that I get feedback from on the technicalities of the speech. In terms of feedback on whether the message resonates, that's general feedback from the audience. Like Safura said, I will ask the audience, what was my message? And if majority come back with what the message was, then okay, good. I know that the work is mostly done there. If the majority comes back and there's a different message, and it happened to me once when I was testing my speech, and the message that came back, everyone said a completely different message. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, I need to do a lot of work. I need to make sure my message comes out stronger, cut out a lot of the sub-stories, because there's a lot of sub-stories and sub-messages that get in there. And then that way it tells me what to do. But I try and be very specific. What kind of feedback am I looking for? And who do I get it from? Do I get it from the audience? Or do I get it from an expert who has been there? And I'll go to different people for different feedback. So back to you, Daphne.
Yes. The tips is, if you want to reach world stage, when you are going on your way to the world stage, get the advice from someone who had walked that path. And if you just target yourself, your goal is only club level, then I believe there are many people who can actually share with you. But if you want to go higher, look for people who have been there. Now, let's move on to with Safura. Safura?
Yes.
Yeah. What about you?
I already answered first. Definitely.
Yeah.
I answered before, and Adeline.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Because I was so excited and wow. Now, let's move on towards the end. Do you actually enjoy contesting? Safura mentioned that since young, she already interested in talking, and then Adeline shared that she was already in this singing and talking, speeches, all those kind of things. I believe both of you are people who are meant to be on the stage. Now, will we be back? And Safura has declared that she will be contesting again. What about Adeline? And what keeps you motivated to go for it again and again, from club, area, division, and to district, and to WCP, if the chance is there?
For me, the motivation is to keep growing and learning. So as I mentioned, when I started this contest journey, the second time is, okay, what are the specific things that I want to learn? And one of it, as I mentioned, was learning to deliver a live speech, right? Because I had not had that experience before. The other thing that I wanted to learn this time round was to say, I want to learn what I don't even know that I don't even know, right? Because I really look at it as this is my 4th year in Toastmasters, second contest cycle. I look at it as there's so many more things to learn, and I don't even know that I don't even know. So one of the things that I did this year was to reach out to a new coach and learn from this. And this person has inspired me beyond everything. I mean, it was just like opening a door to things I hadn't even thought about. And there was no way I would even know that I didn't know those things. But for that, and that to me is something that keeps me inspired, is that learning journey, that growing journey. The contest, as I mentioned, I look at the contest, it's really not for me. It's really about, this is a chance for me to practice and a discipline for me to work at it. Because without the pressure of the contest, it's very easy to not work at that level. Okay. It's very easy to not seek out extra feedback. It's very easy just push off your speech because you know what, I'm so busy this week, I'm just going to cancel my speech and do it next meeting, right? So there isn't that pressure. The contest, to me, the value of it is the pressure that says, okay, you know, there's a contest coming up in 1 month. I have to put a certain schedule on. If I want to do it 2 or 3 iterations, I have to schedule myself for feedback. I must take time to look at the feedback. I must take time to learn something new. Every speech is learning, and half the things that I try don't work, right? And it's okay. But then I learned that it doesn't work, so I won't do it again. Or I learned that something works, then okay, let me keep that in. So for me, that's the learning journey. And this year, I would say the thing that has really, really struck me, I really feel like it was opening a door, just meeting through this coach that I started working with, things that I honestly didn't even know. I didn't even know how he selects his themes. He opened a whole new door to, this is how I select my themes. And I was like, oh my God, it is so inspirational. It is such a different level. One thing I'll say though, is if I had met him 2 years ago, right, when I was starting my journey, I wouldn't have understood half the things. And to be honest, even today, I don't understand half the things he says. I mean, I hear them, but I don't know how to apply them. And I'm like, that's okay. At least now I'm aware that I don't know. So I can start to learn that. But there really is, to me, it's really like a journey. It's a learning journey. It's a learning scale. At every level, just play the game at that level. And when you're ready for the next level, and you will know when you're ready for the next level, you will seek out the teachers at that next level, or even better, the teachers will seek you out and be willing to work with you at that next level. But if I, in my first few speeches, contest speeches 2 years ago, if I had gone to this guy, it would have been completely over my head. It's like you learn to play tennis and you immediately go to Djokovic, right? It's like, it's a waste of time, waste of his time, waste of your time. You won't get anything out of it. But when you're at that level and you just need him to push you that little bit higher, that's when that coach, that trainer, that mentor will appear. So for me, I just know that where I am is so far from where I need to be, but that means that it's a learning journey that every year I can keep learning and growing. I don't know if I'll take part in a contest every single year, but I do want to keep learning and growing. And the beauty of the contest is it's that pressure. It's that condensing. When you take part in a contest at any level, like I said, I can promise you, what you learn in 1 week is what you will normally learn in 1 year of normal Toastmasters. What you learn in 4 weeks is what you learn in four years. It's such a wonderful compressed timeline, and you'll grow so much. And the beauty of it is once you learn it and you grow it, you have that skill and knowledge for the rest of your life. So why not learn it earlier? Instead of learning over 10 days or learn it in 10 weeks. So that to me is what I would say. That's why I take part in contests. And that's why I encourage everyone also, wherever you are on your journey, to take part in contests. You will learn so much, you will accelerate so much, you'll meet amazing people who will share with you things that you don't even know that you don't even know. Yeah. So back to you.
Right. So the key motivation is that the more you learn, the more you don't know, and that is what motivates you. Other than that, when when you are ready, your teacher will come. That is something that, prepare ourselves. The right time, the right person will come into our life. And another thing is compressed learning. When we have compressed learning, we learn fast, save lots of time. But of course, must be able to handle the pressure. If can't, learn from Adeline. Now, let's move on to Safura, who is so relaxed so far.
Okay, for me, when I started this journey of contesting, is actually to be inspiration for my children, actually for my son and daughter, to be proud of their mom. That's my main motivator. Although they don't really come to any of my contests because I don't know the reason why, but because maybe they want, that's the children or things like that. But for me, it's actually, I started off pretty much to get them proud of me and wanting them to also aspire to achieve something beyond their comfort zone. So that's where I started contesting. And at the same time, just like Adeline, it's a learning journey, and I agree with her. The pressure creates the diamond. the pressure makes you force you to focus. And I think that's one of my weakness, perhaps, is because I've got so many things on my plate that my focus has not been that sharp as it should be. So perhaps something that, getting inspired by Adeline, something I need to look into for my next contest journey. So having said that, again, for me, it does take a lot of work, but it's worth it in my opinion, especially when you see that people are inspired by your stories. I do get a lot of people who come up to me after my speech and they say, wow, Safura, I'm so inspired. When I grow up, I want to be like you. That's my tagline. But yeah, so that's, to me, something that makes me want to continue contesting. And definitely, I'm actually sort of an introvert. But when I come to Toastmasters meeting, when I go to the conference, you get the energy from everybody else. So it's very, for me, it's like I'm a energy sucker. So I suck everybody's energy. So I'm sorry if you feel depleted after meeting me. So yeah, I think inshallah, as long as I don't reach finals, I'll still continue to contest.
Okay. And with that, one tip from each of you in 1 minute. What advice would you give to would-be contestant for the coming term? This term. One advice, 1 minute advice. Let's have Adeline.
Okay, so let's take contest, right? Take contest because it really accelerates the learning. And what I would say is go into a contest with intention. And what the intention is different at different levels. So for me, if you are taking part in your first contest this year, I would say look at a skill that you want to learn. And you can get this from your mentor. You can get this from the more experienced speakers in your club to say, hey, what's one skill that I can really work on, right? And again, this is because the pressure of the contest will allow you to do that. So for example, you can say, I want to practice telling stories. I want to practice impactful opening, right? So pick one, work on it till you feel good enough. And the advantage of a contest is because you're putting yourself out there more often, you can learn faster. And once you're ready with that, then learn the next skill. So in the first contest cycle, I had about 7 big things that I wanted to work on, but I tried to work on them one at a time. So there were things around opening with impact. How do I want to grab someone's attention within 20 seconds of the opening? I had things around, okay, how do I make sure my story ties? I have what we call a loop, right? That the opening and your closing is a nice thing. So I had about 7 things, but I worked on them one at a time. And when I felt I was good enough, then I work on the next skill. So if you are starting your contest, that's what I would say. Write down the list of things you want to work on, but start working on them one at a time. Get feedback from your coach, get feedback from the people who know. And so that gives you a very focused way of learning the skills that you want to learn. And as mentioned, you will compress that learning so much compared to just doing regular club speeches, pathway speeches. You will learn so much. So use this to learn your skills. If you've competed before and you are, and your skills are mostly there, so your vocal variety is there, all the basic skills are there, then push yourself a bit further, push yourself towards the message. So the message is, the universality of a message. Test different messages. And the big thing is find the message that resonates with you. So one thing that my new coach, the coach I started working with this year, told me, he said there's a big difference because he had been to the World Championship 4 times before he won. And he said, the one difference that he noted was that people who really, really have that message that resonates with them, it's such a core part of the message that they'll come back every year with the same message in a better form because they'll learn what didn't work the previous year. But the whole idea is that they want to get that message onto the world stage. They want tens of thousands of people to hear that message because it's such an important message. So the way to get to that, and for me, I'm not at that stage yet. For me, I don't know what is that message that I want to have. All the 3 speeches that I've used for contests have all very different messages, but that's part of the learning process. You test different messages and you see which message is so powerful to you that you'll come back next year. You'll come back contest after contest, refining that message because it's so important to you. But the way to get there is by testing different messages. So then you know which are the ones that are not that message. So if you're more advanced contestant, that's what I encourage you to do. So if you pass all the delivery speech craft pieces, then start working on the message, start working on your message that's going to resonate for you and also resonate for the audience. So that would be my many pieces of advice. I know you asked for one. I gave a few pieces of advice. Back to you, Daphne.
Wow, you have lots of golden nuggets to share with us. Yes, indeed. I need to take notes later when I watch the recording. Now, find our message first. Find message first. And once we have the message, try out many messages to find that one message. Once we have that message, try the story. If this story doesn't carry out the message well, try another story to bring out the message. Is that something that you want to mention as well, Adeline? Yes. If one story doesn't really bring it out, try another story, keep on trying until you do it, until you manage to have it shared out. Yes. Now let's move to Safura, 1 minute or one tip.
So for me, the one thing that's most important to become a good speaker, either you're contesting or not, is self-awareness of really, really knowing yourself. So to me, it starts with that. It's when I started, that was the questions I asked myself. What's important to me? What are the challenges that I face when I am speaking? Just like mentioned by Adeline to some extent just now, what's the gap? Because fundamentally, we tend to speak out. We tend to speak about, outwards rather than inwards. So to make that message resonate, to make that, your delivery authentic, is all about self-awareness. How comfortable are you talking about that message? How comfortable are you with that speech? Because once you are very self-aware, audience awareness becomes easier. When we are self-aware, audience awareness becomes easier. Why? Because, we're not focusing about the conversation we're having in our head while we're giving the speech. Because that's the problem that some of us face. I started having that problem when I started off, is while I'm giving that speech, I'm actually having another speech happening in my brain. So being self-aware, knowing that's going to happen and addressing it will help you to be a better speaker, because you've had that conversations before with yourself. So now you're focusing on your conversation with the people you're talking to, either through a speech or speaking to them in a conversation. So that's one tip that I would give. Self-awareness, really get to know yourself, and understand what values are important to you, what are the stories that are important to you, so that you become an authentic speaker. So that's one tip from me. Thank you, Daphne.
Ladies and gentlemen, having heard from two different panelists from two different districts, District 80 and District 102, and two different star speakers. So have you found yours? Are you inclined to Adeline star, or are you inclined to Safura star? Whichever that you are inclined, try the other star, whether you can actually blend it to your own star. Now, let's move on to the next segment. Before that, if you enjoy and learn a lot from Adeline and Safura today, please give your heart, give the reaction buttons, use the reaction and give heart, or type 111 in the chat box. All right, now let's move on to the next. May I pass the floor to our TME. Thanks to Safura and Adeline first. Then now pass back to TME.
Thank you, moderator, Toastmasters Daphne, and also our great panelists of tonight, Adeline and also Safura, distinguished Toastmasters Safura. Tonight, we learned a lot, and we have so much to ask and so much to say to them. We'll have another 15 minutes Q&A session after 9:45 as a bonus session for all the attendees today. Now, we are going to appreciate the time of Adeline and also Safura. And I see our president of Ardent advanced evidence speakers, distinguished Toastmaster Patricia. Can we have the Zoom masters to show the certificate of appreciation on the screen and pin our president, distinguished Toastmasters Patricia, and also the organizing chair, Toastmasters Daphne Tan.
Thank you so much to our Toastmaster of the evening, Hui Qin. And it's our honor to have Daphne moderating a great session, a champion session, together with Adeline from District 80 and also Safra Atan from District 102. For me, it's certainly an honor. I learned so much from all of you, even though I wasn't able to turn on a screen. So I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge your huge contribution to all our global audience here. So whenever you are ready, Zoom Master, please help us to spotlight our two speakers, and we want to acknowledge them with a certificate of appreciation. Over to you, Zoom Master. Adeline, thank you so much. Let's
Yes.
spotlight Adeline. Yes. Daphne? So we shall spotlight Daphne, Adeline, and myself. Thank you.
Yeah, good to go. Ningwa, can you take charge? You do the necessary countdown. I think Adeline first. Can you screenshot?
I'll take the picture. I'll take the picture. Okay,
right.
look at the camera.
Wait, Adeline.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Look at the picture, look at the camera. 1, 2, 3.
One more.
Hold on. Okay, another one. One, two, three. Thank you, done.
Okay,
Thank
next,
you.
Safura.
Thank you, Safura.
That's my Safura. Spotlight Safura.
Can you find me?
Let me find.
Good.
Yeah, can. Okay, done.
Done. And Safura's favorite pose.
Please look into the camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
one more freestyle. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, done.
All right, can we have Safura and Adeline together? I
And
think,
Daphne together as well.
yes, I think I'll add Adeline first. And later we'll take the group photo with everyone. All right. Christine, are you ready? Give instruction.
Make it bigger. All right, please look at the camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, done.
Let's have role players. Thank you.
I'm
Linwa,
here.
have you turned on your camera, Linwa? Can you say something so that we can see you better, easier? Linwa.
Hello.
Oh, you are using avatar. Okay, nice.
Take a picture.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
One more. And while we are taking the picture, the rest of you, please rename yourself accordingly with your district, your name, and your club, so that when you take the group photo, you don't see just district, guest, and district name and guest name and the club. So the standard one that I had for you, put your own name so that we can take a nice picture. But is it,
So
can
we're
you
going
share
to take
the
the group
cert again?
photo now, right?
Cert already taken? Quality
Group
check?
photo, group photo.
Okay, now group photo. Group photo, everyone, please turn on your camera if you are convenient to tap it on.
Hi everyone, please turn on your camera. Let's take a group photo to commemorate this moment together. All right. Okay, so anyone else?
Right, at the count of 3, 2, 1, if you are not turning on
3,
your camera, we'll take the photo
2,
now.
1. Okay. All right. Okay. Done.
Okay, let's move on.
So with that, thank you everyone for joining our tea talk today to learn so much from Adeline and also Safura. So now I'm going to pass the control for this tonight's closing address. Let's welcome the organizing chair, Toastmasters Daphne Tan. Daphne, the virtual stage is yours.
Here, Toastmaster of the evening. Congratulations, everyone, because you take your time to be here. You made it here today and learn from Safura and Adeline. I believe there is more to learn, right? Because there are question and answer. So this following 15 minutes, I shall post more question because I think that is so much more to learn from both of them. If you want to ask and learn more, please give heart so that we can see and motivates our panelists to stay on for the next 15 minutes. Type in the chat box or use the reaction button. Do I see heart? I don't really see any heart. Okay, I see from Aini. I see from Hugh. Okay, that's good. And there's a few more in the chat box. That's good. Now, let's move on to the Q&A. I have a few questions from the audience. And if you have more questions later, I will invite you to ask directly. We have 15 minutes. So for the panelists, this is impromptu session. 1 minute to answer the question. First, I want to pick is Safura. Safura, as a public speaking champion, what are the training, drills, methods of practice done to be a champion?
I think one of the, so you ask me, Safura. Okay. So
Safura.
okay, one of the things that I trained myself early on was the quality of my voice, because I feel one of my biggest challenge is when I'm nervous, my voice tends to go a few pitch high. And one of the things that I did was to do breathing exercises and learn how to relax my vocal instrument to allow me to manage my pitch, my tone, and my timbre to make sure that I do not go haywire when I start speaking on stage. So that's one thing that I did. And things like warming up your voice, doing like the trilling and the blow the bubble stuff to relax the mouth and your vocal instrument so that when you speak, you don't trip over the words. I think that's one of the things that I could share with everybody. Back to you, Daphne.
Okay, next is a question that is from Rajiv from TCS Kochi. How to choose a relevant topic and make it appealing to global audience. Let's pick Adeline to answer this in 1 minute.
Me?
Yes, Adeline.
Sorry, I got kicked off for a while.
How to choose a relevant topic and make it appealing to global audience.
Got it. Yes. So again, I would say, me, us, them, right? So start with something that's relevant to you, something you're going through in your life right now, something that you feel that's exceptional value to you, something that's changed your life. So something that's meaningful to you first. Then secondly, universal values. What are things that cuts across all ages, all backgrounds, all genders, all kinds of different things. There's and it's not a very long list, to be honest. It's things around love, things around community, things around fear, overcoming fear, or perseverance, coming back from failure. So you'll see that the list of themes that people talk about every year in contest is not a very long list. It's basically universal values, what makes us human. But it must be something that resonates with you. And then as you think about going beyond your local stage, things that other people can relate to as well. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on what themes are. You just have to play around with it. And as mentioned, one thing that as I've met more people who have gone through this journey, it's such a trial and error. So people have said, it took me how many years of writing speeches, of testing speeches to find out what resonates with me, what resonates with my audience. I don't think there's a hard and fast way to say, okay, you must talk about this one universal theme. But it's part of the learning journey. It's part of this exciting journey and this contest journey, should you choose to embark on it. Hopefully that answers your question.
Daphne, your mic is muted.
Unmute. Yes.
Okay, thanks for sharing from Adeline. Next, I shall invite Adeline again to answer this question. Standing in persuading, how to be more effective, especially in interview and something that are related or sell ourselves, because fact tells, story sells, and emotion is the one that push people to feel along and buy. So that is the persuasive portion. That is persuasive communication. How to be effective persuasive communicator. 2 minutes.
Wow, that's a
topic for you.
topic in itself. The best way, honestly, is to learn sales skills. So reading books on persuasive selling, reading books on using NLP to sell. So all these will actually give you ideas on how do you persuade people. Because Sapura mentioned this earlier, right? It's not about you, it's actually about the audience. So learning about how the audience receives messages, learning about how the audience can be persuaded, that's a big part of it. And the people who are the best at that are salespeople, are good salespeople. So if you want to be very, very persuasive, learn from salespeople, read books on sales from good salespeople, attend sales meetings, right? You know all those free sales meetings that you see people inviting you, and see how they sell. How do they talk to you? What resonates with you as an audience member will likely also resonate with some of your audience members when you are the one selling or persuading them from the stage. So that's the way I would say, if you want to learn persuasive skills, learn from the people who have to rely on that for a living, which are salespeople.
Yes.
Hopefully that helps.
Yes, indeed. In fact, the best motivator or the motivation guru that we have in this world are mostly salespeople. And who are the salespeople? Not only those people who do the sales in product, but also the person who sell themselves by marketing themselves as the guru in specific area of learning. For example, AI learning or text related topic learning, etc. Yeah, it is. We go through the different learning and attend, if we can, attend sales talk, either physically or virtually. There are abundance of it. Sales video, and you can actually refer to Brian Tracy, OG Manindo, etc. Next, we shall move on. There is a question from the audience, live audience here today. Catherine did mention how to, I'll pass the question to Safura because she's talked about story. Safura starts off with story. So Catherine had this question. I think Safura is most suited to answer this. How to find compelling personal stories? Sometimes it is not universal. Sometimes it is universal. How do we actually define universal, and how do we decide that our personal story is not too private or something that is too personal, that whether to share or not to share? That is the challenge portion. How do we actually go about making our personal story into a winning speech? Safura.
Okay, thank you, Daphne. Thank you, Catherine, for a very complex question. So if you talk about compelling personal stories, if you feel that your life doesn't have much things happening, that's what you feel. In actual fact, everybody has stories to tell. You might feel there's nothing happening in your life, but take an example. This one guy, I forget his name, he won the world champion by just talking about changing a tire. His story, it was one of the shortest championship stories to win. He talked about that night that he punctured his tire and changing the tire. It's just a simple situation that happened to him, but he used that as a story with a message. There was another contestant much earlier on. He talked about watching a movie with his children. Okay, so for me, it is about I talked about self-awareness. Because when you have self-awareness, you are able to be more observant. You'll be able to reflect more on what's happening around you. And this reflection is actually the part that helps you craft that story of what did you learn from that simple event in your life. So for me, everybody's life is exciting as you make it. Some people can getting up in the morning and just making coffee exciting. So it's pretty much how you look at it. How I look at it. Okay, embarrassing to share. So for me, all of us has had an embarrassing moment, and you'll be surprised how universal it is. It's just that it's some things which are taboo that you know what they are, that makes it uncomfortable to talk about. But there's some things, some nuggets of experience that you'll be surprised that actually everybody has experienced it, but perhaps they think like, nobody wants to know about this, or nobody wants to talk about this. So it's about you looking at it from reframing it from another perspective. So that is the reflection I think all of us need to do, that we will be better communicators, we're better speakers, and better human beings. That's how I put it. Because to me, contesting and doing speeches is not just that. It's a life event. That's how I put it. So that's how I would answer that question, Catherine. We can always be empathy.
Yes, indeed. To add on to the answer that Safura has shared, I would say that be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is, if you feel uncomfortable delivering something that is embarrassing to you at that point of time, after you have shared, especially when you bring in the key message, what you want to share in the key message. And if the story fits in and you keep talking about it, you will overcome the embarrassment very soon. Yes. And next, this is one specific question addressed to Adrien, also from Catherine to Adrien. What was the 3 key factors that helped you to win the contest at district level? All right, can I invite Adrien to answer this?
Yeah, so it's a bit tricky because I really look at the winning as it's the choices of the judges. So you probably have to ask the judges what they liked about what they liked about the speech. For me, the way I look at a contest is all the hard work comes before the contest. The only part that I can control is all the work that comes before the contest, right? I can control my preparation for it. I can control how I tested the message and everything, all that I can control. But the moment of the contest, I really can't control the results at all, because you don't know who the judges are. You don't know what they like. You don't know if they resonate with your story. Hopefully you've done enough homework beforehand so that when it goes in, you say, okay, there's a good chance that this audience will resonate with the story. But you can't control that and control the other competitors. If some year you just have an amazing set of competitors and a speech that normally would have won another year just doesn't win that year. So you can't control all those factors. I can't say what caused me to win. What I did take from my learning journey this year of my speech. So like I mentioned, the first thing I wanted to do skills-wise was to learn about connecting with the audience, because it's a live audience, right? I wanted to learn how to structure a speech to be very engaging for the audience. That was one thing. Another learning that I wanted to do, which was a new learning for me, and it was one that I didn't even know that I didn't even know, was around selling the problem. And the previous question was around how do you persuade someone? So the secret I learned this year, and I won't say I'm good at it yet, but it's something I learned, is that we tend to focus on selling the solution, right? So we tend to focus on whatever your message is, that is typically selling the solution. So for me, it was be bigger than your fear 1 year, right? It was the solution, be bigger, that's the solution. But what gets the audience engaged is if in the first 20 seconds, 30 seconds, you actually sell the problem. So you actually sell that, hey, guess what? You actually have a problem with this thing I'm going to tell you about. And they don't know what you're going to tell. It's not about the solution. Forget the solution. It's about the problem. So if you can sell that problem in the first 20, 30 seconds, and they listen and they go, oh my God, I actually had that problem in my life, right? And then they start listening to your story. So even if your story, like we talked about this, even if your story has a lot of local elements, you talk about durian to a Western audience, right? It doesn't matter, because it's the problem. If you have the same problem and you sold it, they will listen to your story and then they'll listen to the solution that you're proposing. So that was something that I learned this year as well. How do you sell the problem instead of focusing on selling the solution? So that was the second thing that I wanted to work on. A third thing that I wanted to work on this year was around using less drama. And I saw someone had a question, do we need to incorporate drama? So my background, as mentioned, is a drama background, right? I've been acting for a very long time. So I'm very comfortable acting roles. I'm very comfortable being very dramatic. But I wanted to pull back. I wanted to say, about that, how do you be more authentic? Because when you're more authentic, and if you look at the best speakers in the world, in fact, they're so good that you don't even get the sense that they're acting for you. You just get the sense that they're just talking to you like a friend, right? Whether it's Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, or all many, many different kinds, even politicians, podcasters and all that. You don't feel like they're acting for you. You actually feel like, hey, it was so unscripted. They just came and they showed up. And that seems to be the style of communication now, partly because of social media. That's how it is. People don't have this big drama kind of, TV series drama, right? You don't have that kind of setup anymore. It's a very conversational thing. So part of me, what I wanted to do was to push it away from that, to say, okay, I know my natural style and inclination is to go towards very drama, very scripted, because that's my background. That's what I'm comfortable with. And as a more beginner, early on in my speaking career now, that's what I'm more comfortable with. You're hiding behind the words, you're hiding behind the script. But what if I push myself to be more authentic? Push myself to be less props, less action, less staging and all that. And it's not comfortable for me, because that is not my natural thing. Where some people may come from that, very much that's what you are. So my thing is, pick the 2 or 3 things that you really want to learn, do them one in turn, make sure that you feel comfortable that you know what it is, and that's the learning that you get out of it. And then the rest of it at the contest is in the hands of the judges. They like you, great. They don't like you because you look like the ex-girlfriend, sorry. So it's okay, I can't control that. Okay, they don't like it or whatever, they don't like my story, okay, fine, I can't control that. But what I can control is the learning, and what I can control is what I want to push myself to be. So back to
Yes, indeed. We can't control the external factor, but what we can control is what that is within us. So strive to the best version of ourselves. And when we deliver speech, deliver it until people don't feel that we are acting it out. Make it so natural, feel the authenticity. Yeah. Next, there is one question from someone from Rico Jaswa from Toastmaster Club of Singapore. Here is this question. So I'll give opportunity to Adeline and Safura as well. He asked 4 items, so you pick 1 item. If you had to choose one thing, whether it is habit, behavior, process, or attitude. Repeat, habit, behavior, process, or attitude that we need to embrace to develop a winning habit in public speaking. What would that be? Safura? Habit, behavior, process, or attitude?
I'm going to be boring and say attitude. Because for me, the attitude determines the process, the behavior, and the habits. So you need to have the, they would say the growth mindset, the attitude of taking every journey as a learning journey. So for me, that's my answer, attitude. You can't have, somebody shared with me, which I found very profound, ego. Ego is important, self-awareness, as I said, self-awareness, but to the point that ego becomes edging God out. Ego, E-G-O, edging God out. That's where, you can't accept feedback, you can't accept any input from other people. So again, just like mentioned by Adeline, we do our best when we're contesting as much as possible to fulfill that ballot, those points in the ballot, judging ballots, right? But end of the day, the people who are judging you are still human. So we just have to accept, that, just not our time this time. And we just start over again, do all over again, work on it, find the gap, and, be happy that we reach that level. So for me, again, we just do our best. Just do our best. And it's all about attitude. We might have the best habits, the best process, the best behavior, but if our attitude is not right, usually the rest doesn't work. So that's my take.
Okay, the peep from Safura is attitude. And we have already exceeded the time. Our original time we are supposed to end by 10, but it seems that there are more to learn from both speakers, the both panelists. If you want to drop off now, it is okay. But if you want to learn from Adeline, please stay on for a few more minutes. Adeline, please complete it in 2 minutes.
Yes, I will. And interesting, Rico, because this is actually where I am right now in my journey. So as mentioned this year, one of the things that just wowed me was being exposed to this new coach, right? And one of the things I realized that I was so short on was habit, because I really realized that it's habit that makes us what we want to be in future, right? So, and I like Safura says, it is actually all connected. The difference to me is that attitude, you can wake up with a great attitude, but if you want to make it consistent and you want to see the results, it's the daily habit you do that gets you there, because that's what pushes through the moments of weak willpower, the moments of, I don't have the motivation, I'm not feeling this speech right now. If you have that daily habit, right, it just gets you through that. And even though every day is a little bit, is 0.01% better or 1% better, every day over time, it becomes a big thing. And so for those who are not aware, the results for the semi-finalists came out about a week plus ago. I didn't make it this time around. And I was actually very, very grateful, because part of it was I didn't have the habits. I knew I didn't have the habits. So 2 of the habits that I'm putting in place right now, and I don't want to say it's for next year. I think it's just for me to become a better speaker, regardless of the contest next year or 2 years or whatever it is. It's about the habit habits that are going to get me to where I want to go to. So the 2 habits that I picked up from talking to people who are so inspirational and who have gotten to that level The first was a daily habit of tracking my progress. So making sure that every day I'm working a little bit on a skill, a little bit on a speech. It doesn't mean sitting down and doing, 2-3 hours of it, right? It's just a little bit, just working on it every day, little bit. What's a skill I want to work on? And just making sure that every single day I'm doing something around that. That's the first skill that I want to work on. And as mentioned, one of the things that I started to learn, one specific skill I'm working on right now is selling the problem, because I wasn't even aware that it was a skill I didn't have, right? So I'm being aware of that skill now. Now it's about selling the problem. And someone asked a question earlier about, what I don't have interesting stories in my life. Part of the habit that I'm trying to do is to say, okay, what is something ordinary that happened to me today, right? And how can I turn that into a problem that universally other people have? Okay, I'll give you a very simple example. So I went for I'm very old. So I went for cataract surgery last week because I started to realize I couldn't see clearly, right? So that was it's not that it's a daily thing, but it's a thing that people can identify when you're getting older, your eyesight starts to get weaker, but not everyone is at that stage yet. But if you pull that to a universal problem, the universal problem is people going blind, right? And what is a message that you can pull from having that problem, right? The message would be, okay, sell this fear that, you might lose a sight, lose a sense or lose a sight that's very important to you. And then from that, you can then play with, okay, so what can I tell people? Now, what's a solution that I can offer to people? Because I can't offer to solve your sight problem. But how can you turn that to a problem that everyone can identify with, even if they're not losing their sight? And what my coach, and he's so amazing at it. And he said, you know what, don't compare yourself to me, because I've been doing this for over 10 years. So I'm very fast at it. He said, well, you know what, not everyone is losing their sight. But what if you tell them that, the message is around the things that really matter in your life, you don't need your eyes to see. The things that really matter in your life are the things that you feel with your heart. So even if you lose your sight, so what, right? So it's something like that. And actually, another interesting version of this was my doctor who was doing the cataract surgery. I said, oh my God, there's a small risk when you go for cataract surgery that you might actually lose your sight, right? And he's just a doctor, but he just said, you're such a profound statement. He said, yeah, even people who have sight don't always have vision. And I was like, whoa, okay, thank you for that message. I don't know what to do with it. But the whole point is it's a habit of saying, okay, how do I take daily things that happen in my life? And how do I find a universal message, a universal problem that people can have, and then potentially a universal solution, right? But you play with it. And when you exercise that muscle every day, it will become very good in 6 months. It'll become very good in 1 year. It'll become amazing in 2 years and 10 years. So that's one habit that I want to put in place, which is take daily things and just practice. How do I sell the problem? How do I sell the problem? How do I sell the problem? Okay. The other habit that I have that I just started as well was saying, okay, do I have stages to test my speech ideas? Because part of the learning for me is the first speech you write is not going to be perfect. And like I said, one of my speeches took 30 iterations. Most speeches will take 5, 7, 10 iterations, whatever it takes to get there. The whole point is you must have enough stages to test a stage, right? You must have enough platforms to test that speech so that you can iterate. Because if you don't test, you cannot learn what works and what doesn't work. So part of the habit I'm putting in place is how can I create 5 platforms for myself? Toastmasters is one platform, right? How can I create 5 other platforms that I can use on a regular basis? Not every day, not every week, but I have 5 platforms that I can consistently use, different audiences, that I can test stories, test messages, not test the whole 5 to 7 minute speech, right? If it's your family, if it's your friends, if it's your community group, they don't always have this idea of 5 to 7 minutes, but you can use them as an audience to test, I'm going to tell the story and see the reaction, right? And if the reaction is they're like, oh my God, tell me more. Oh my God, I can see how that applies. Great, I got some feedback. If the reaction is, okay, whatever. Okay, not good enough, right? So the whole idea is so my challenge to myself was, how do I create 5 platforms that I can access on a regular basis to test ideas test parts of speeches, right? Toastmasters will still be the 5 to 7 minute formal speech because that's where we have this, but other places where we can do that. So again, what I learned from, world-class people is they got there because of these habits, right? They got there because of these habits. They've been doing it every day consistently. After 2 years, they do that. After 5 years, after 10 years, they win, and they win with the right thing. In fact, what my coach said was, you don't want to win with the wrong speech. He said there are two kinds of winners. There are people who win with the right speech, which is the speech of their life. He calls it the Michelangelo moment, right? Michelangelo created. David will never be created again, even by him, okay? It's the speech of your life, okay? You can win with the speech of your life, or you can win because you were the best of a not very good bunch that year, right? And you are not ready to win. You don't have the foundations. You don't have all that. You still win because it so happened that it's luck, right? The bunch was not very good. The competition was not that strong that year. The judges happened to like you. The best person went overtime. I mean, all the things that happened in a contest, right? And he said, you don't want to win with the bad speech. You want to win with the speech of your life. And to get to the speech of your life, it is 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. A lot of introspection. Safura talked about that. A lot of going deep into yourself. What are my values? What are my messages? A lot of the daily habits. How do I create these things that I need to give me the chance to reiterate, the chance to understand myself, the chance to practice, find my own things, all these things, and those together add up to a champion. And to me, that was what I realized. It's like, it's the trophy, yes, but do I deserve that trophy, right? It's the journey. It's not about the trophy. It's about the journey and what I learned and what I got out of it. And to me, that's the big difference that I'm going for at this point in my journey. Yeah. Back to you, Daphne.
Oh, such an insightful sharing. Now, yes, indeed, it may be started with this attitude. We need a positive attitude, good attitude in keeping ourselves repeating or doing something that we dislike or something that we really hate. Keep doing it until it becomes a habit. Once it becomes a habit, it is just part of us naturally. And whenever we do things, we will naturally, like Adeline, what she did is that she will keep going to different stages, the 5 stages that she get to practice and practice and practice. It becomes so natural part of her. Whenever she does something, she wants the so-called perfection, yeah, and keep repeating until it is just part of her and who she is today. So attitude and habit will actually make things easier for us, because attitude, sometimes you have to consider, is this right? Is that not right? What should I do? That's attitude. We need to pick the right thing or the one that most suitable to the situation. But habit is something, especially the positive habit, is something that will bring us far and long. Well, with that, I will shout and our sharing for today, and it's a great sharing from both the panelists. I should have made this happen much earlier, right? No, this is the right time. Why? Because our contest season is going to start a few months time. So you have the time to prepare yourself if you are contesting. If you are not contesting, at least you know where and what to look into when you are evaluating or when you are acting as the judge in a contest. And if you want more, keep in touch and leave. Those of you who have registered yourself, I will email you, so you give me the feedback later on. And now, but not least, of course, I would like to invite Patricia Yap, Distinguished Toastmaster Patricia Yap, to give one final wrap-up as a club president. And while waiting for Patricia, can we give heart to our panelists? Let's give more hearts so that in the future, when we invite them, invite both Safura and Adeline and many more, they will come. Yeah, give them heart. Lots of heart. Patricia, are you available? If not, I shall wrap up. Okay, since Patricia is not available, as she mentioned earlier on, she out somewhere. Now, is there any more that you want to share, Adeline? Just nice, right?
Start preparing, start thinking about your
Yeah,
message.
I will invite you again in the
Yes.
future. So share later so that the audience will keep in touch and then come back for more because there is so much to learn from Adeline and from Safura. Let's learn her style of being so relaxed. That is something that I really lack of because I'm the type who is kanchiong. So those of you who are in the same situation with me, let's learn from Safura as well in handling situation in a calm manner. Yes, and with that, let's end the session tonight. We are 23 minutes over time, but I believe none of you regret. In fact, many of you will be asking for more and will actually stay on if we can continue, but time is limited. The best is today. And any other, we'll keep on next time. All right, with that, we shall end the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. Thank you, Hui Ting. Thank you, Patricia,
Thank
for
you,
hosting
everyone,
us.
for inviting. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
everybody.
Thank you, Sakura.
Enjoy your
Thank
Sunday.
you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night,
everyone,
everyone.
for being with us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. All right, I
Good
shall end
night.
the recording and the session. Okay, good night, everyone. Goodbye.